supporting information that chelate agents are present on site or in the water in the basin near the plant?
One important indication of that is the environmental report that the company filed with the NRC admits that its NPDES permit for Fermi 2, which it used as an assumption for what could happen at Fermi 3, allows for 2.5 million pounds of phosphoric acid per year to be used within the facility. So phosphoric acid being a chelating agent, that is one example, but there are others that we included in our filing. EDTA was another example of a chelating agent that was indicated was present on the Fermi site. And that's why I listed in our filings the various organic solvents, decontamination agents that are in use. And we are concerned, both the NRC staff and the company seem to indicate that decommissioning activities at Fermi 3 are outside the scope of this proceeding. But we would assert that decommissioning activities at all three, Fermi 1, Fermi 2, and Fermi 3, are directly relevant to this issue. There's a history within the industry of using chelating agents to decontaminate radioactive items and nuclear plants as an effort to save money on disposal costs. If they can remove the radioactivity layer, then that contaminated item could be disposed of as a lesser category, lower category of waste. But that indicates that chelating agents that are very powerful will be used on the site and could impact Fermi 3 radioactivity releases.
All right, Mr. Repka.
Thank you. A couple points right at the beginning to respond to some of that. This contention relates to a very specific analysis of liquid radiological effluent from the rad waste building. And first, with respect to the use of chelates, the ESBWR design and the Fermi proposal does not involve the use of chelates in liquid rad waste processing. So that's number one. So with respect to the analysis specifically at issue here, there are no chelates involved. Number two, petitioners talk about phosphoric acid as a chelate, and we just disagree with that, number one, that phosphoric acid is not a chelating agent. Number two, with respect to the representations about the use of phosphoric acid, that's something that Mr. Smith addressed earlier. That is subject to the MPDES limitations of 1 ppm. So for use as a corrosion inhibitor or whatever, it's not really germane to the specific analysis we're talking about in contention 5.
Would you consider phosphoric acid to be a strong complexing agent?
I don't think I can answer that question. With respect to use of chelates in decommissioning, I think that's something that, as we did point out in our pleadings, that decommissioning is beyond the scope of the present proceeding. Decommissioning is subject to a specific license termination plan and other NRC planning processes, and I think it would be just grossly speculative to talk about what chelating agents might or might not be used in that context many, many years down the road. So those are the three basic points I just want to get out up front. Beyond that, this contention is really focused on a specific radiological, hydrological study that was done for 10 CFR Part 100 compliance and Standard Review Plan SRP Section 2.4.13. The contention really just keys off of one staff RAI, which seeks some additional analysis on that point. But I think it's very, very important to understand the full context, and I'll just take a minute again to reiterate some of what we put in our filing. This analysis, it's our position, is not even necessary for Fermi 3, because the ESBWR design assumes a negative result with respect to, if you do this analysis, you would conclude that certain effluents would exceed the effluent concentration limit, the ECL, and as a result, mitigation measures are relied upon that are built into the ESBWR. Now, let me try to explain that in a little more detail. This specific postulated release that's used to analyze the site conditions, it comes from the rad waste building and the liquid rad waste storage tanks that are located outside containment. Under the ESBWR design, they're located in a concrete vault that's lined with a steel liner, and that steel liner is the design mitigating effect. So in the DCD for the ESBWR, the liquid rad waste leak is not even considered to be an accident. It's because it's mitigated by the design. It simply won't happen. But for this siting analysis, what's done is an extremely conservative postulated analysis where you simply take a release as a complete instantaneous release of the rad waste tank with the largest volume, which happens to be the equipment drain collection tank, and you take that source term and put it directly to the groundwater. This is obviously highly conservative, even if you didn't have the ESBWR design. And then the staff requested that Detroit Edison do that analysis, and as we described in our filing, the company determined that the rock under the site is not homogeneous, but fractured, and given the limited testing experience to realistically monitor the subsurface conditions, what they did is instead of using site-specific data, use some very, very conservative dispersion coefficients and retardation factors, and came to the conclusion that certain radionuclides could exceed the ECL. As a result, the application is relying upon as allowed by the standard review plan, is relying upon the mitigation measures built into the ESBWR design. So again, the analysis that was the original analysis that was done was highly conservative, and I think what the RAI was looking for is a little bit of a formalistic, well, this is what we require in every case, but it's really not necessary in this case given that the mitigating measures are already built in. But what Detroit Edison has committed to do now is it has identified a testing methodology that can more precisely monitor or measure using the actual subsurface conditions, and will do that analysis and submit it in September. Now, there's a high likelihood, or at least a possibility, that certain radionuclides in that analysis will still exceed the ECL. So we're right back where we are, which is relying upon the ESBWR design with the built-in mitigation. And of course, that design issue is beyond the scope of the proceeding, and it's never addressed at all in the petition. So I think what we really have is a contention that's we're comparing apples and oranges, or putting it another way, it's perhaps we're pointing in opposite directions, going right by each other. But the fact of the matter is the contention really isn't raising a genuine dispute that could lead to some specific relief in this proceeding, other than that which is already built into the design.